Mrs. Carmichael was attacked by her neighbor's pig. I sent Fred to answer the call.
Helen, do you read me? This pig is insane.
Fred, this is McCord. Now I'm ordering you to pull yourself together and interdict that pig. That's how you command.
You want me to do what to the pig?
My name is Stuart.
I'm Joe.
I'm Chris.
We are here tonight to talk about 1991 pilot Acting Sheriff. We have our resident Westerns expert Chris back.
Hello.
Because we thought this was going to be literally the exact same plot as Pistol Pete.
It certainly starts out that way.
But it turns more into Night Court.
Yes. Absolutely.
There's a reason for that. What were you guys' first impressions of Acting Sheriff?
So my first impression actually was Night Court.
Really?
And I didn't know the history. I didn't know anything about the people involved. And this was with me watching maybe 2 minutes of it, because when Joe sent me the link and asked if I wanted to come on and talk about it, I didn't have time to watch it, but I just watched maybe a minute, 2 minutes. And I just thought, this has a whiff of Night Court about it.
Uh-huh.
And then I watched it and I also thought, yeah, kind of a Night Court vibe. And then upon reading about it, of course, the two writers, producers of this pilot were heavily involved in Night Court.
I did not realize that.
Not only that, but the creator of Night Court also, the show that he created before Night Court was Barney Miller.
Oh.
A show that I have never watched.
Yeah, I've not seen that show.
Never been so bored that I needed to watch Barney Miller, but...
This definitely would have benefited from the presence of Abe Vigoda.
Yeah. Honestly, when I think about the differences between this show and Night Court, is that Night Court has great character actors. You've got John Larroquette, you've got Harry, what's his name, the main judge?
Harry Dean Anderson?
Not Harry Dean Anderson.
And, the guy plays Bull.
Richard Mole.
And there's other talented people on there too. And so they're just kind of batting it back and forth. Whereas this show has, a couple of halfway decent performances, I would say, by the other characters. Maybe. I kind of like the older lady who works in the office.
She's the MVP.
Yeah. And the younger policewoman is pretty good. And she actually, at the same time that she shot this show, became a recurring character on that show, Northern Exposure, apparently as a police officer.
Her IMDb is extensive. She has like over 129 credits, and a lot of them are recurring roles on sitcoms and stuff.
Yeah, and police officers too, apparently, even on recent shows.
She has that stern authoritarian look.
Most of the people on this show are still working, which was kind of surprising. I wanted to quickly read this clip from Variety. This was just a little bit of the review. The pilot featured the arrival of newly elected Sheriff Brent McCord, played by Robert Goulet, apparently as a goof on Ronald Reagan by way of Ted Baxter. He's a trigger-happy ACLU-bashing boob whose disregard for the law is equaled only by his vanity. And then it goes on to compare it unfavorably to Night Court, just like we were doing. Basically make the same point, that Night Court is full of talented character actors and this is not. I would say Robert Goulet might be the best part of this, just because I feel like he really brought his A game.
Absolutely. He's fucking phenomenal.
I mean, everything he says, just his fucking voice is hilarious.
There it is, Mike. Can you hear it?
Hear what?
The terrible, swift sword of justice. It's singing a new song as it rises in the east, and the name on its lips is Brent McCord.
He does such an amazing job at playing like God's own perfect idiot. He seems like he's just playing Ronald Reagan.
I was curious to see if any of the people, because a lot of times when you have a show that's like so close to another show, they have a lot of crossover with actors. But there was only one actor that had been on a Night Court episode, and it's Mike McCannis, who is Fred. And you only hear him on the police radio wrestling with a pig.
Okay, I actually kind of liked that a little bit. I can't say I liked a lot of the jokes on the show, but they heightened it by getting the pig noises in there.
There was a lot of phone humor in this.
Hello, Amos. This is Mike Swanson. I'm fine, thanks. Now, Amos, we had another complaint from a neighbor. I don't care if it scares the crows away. You can't stand out in your cornfield naked.
Yeah, it was a fun recurring gag.
All the action happens somewhere else. Like the whole show takes place in like 2.5 sets.
Yeah, the police station and the hallway next to it, and then the nightclub at the end, I think. Was there anything else?
I counted the police station, which is arguably one big set.
Yeah.
It has the main hall, the hallway, and the sheriff's enormous office. And then we get like a few seconds of a bar at the end.
Yeah. A very dark bar, at least on the copy that I was watching.
Oh, but what I wanted to mention about Michael McCannis, who was playing Fred on the radio.
Yeah.
On Night Court, he played a character named VHK-937 on season 7, episode 14. And this is the summary of that episode. A man claiming to be from the future and armed with a working laser takes the courtroom hostage while 2 street punks are holding Dan. Bull tries the whole range of remedies to get rid of his hiccups. Is Night Court not the best show ever?
So I was tempted to rewatch it, but I did not take that opportunity. But it would be curious to see how it holds up against this show.
Night Court?
Have you seen it recently?
God, classic sitcom.
You know, it's been a long time, but I feel like it would probably hold up pretty well.
It is ludicrous.
I just think all the characters on Night Court are so strong and hilarious.
Yeah.
I feel like it would still be pretty funny.
Yeah.
One thing that I wonder is that made me think about Night Court and it holding up was in this show, the subplot of the deputy wanting to flirt with the assistant DA woman is very sexual harassy. And I know that there was some of that in Night Court as well with John Larroquette, I think maybe was always flirting with some other woman and their coworkers or colleagues. And it's funny because, yeah, that was just part and parcel of sitcom humor. And the joke isn't that he's a creep for doing it. It's that she won't give him a chance.
Yeah, she just brushes off his advances.
Say, Donna, you're looking really good today. Is that a new outfit?
Not now.
Her lips said no, but her back said maybe.
Dan on Night Court was lecherous and constantly chasing women. I mean, like, he was disgusting. Like, I do not think that character would work today.
Would it surprise you to know that he was exactly the same way on the John Larroquette show?
I think that's just that's his character type.
Yeah, it's just who he is.
But I guess it sounds like in some ways in that show, they're making a point of it, and it is kind of his flaw. It's not seen as a noble thing. In this show, you're just supposed to sympathize with the deputy. He can't get a break.
Yeah, it just kind of happens, and he just kind of goes, oh well. Let's just summarize the plot here. Plot is a has-been actor played by Robert Goulet, who was mostly known, I think, for playing Westerns.
Sure.
Gets elected sheriff in a small rural county in Southern California. And this is like the first 2 days of him on the job that we get to see. And he's assisted by a deputy who he ran against, who is played by John Putch, Deputy Mike Swanson.
Officer friendly.
And he lost the election to McCord,
Yeah.
but isn't bitter about it at all. He's actually first to admit that he lost
Against an unqualified actor.
by the will of the people, and cares so much about the community, he wants to help the new sheriff in any way he can for the good of the county.
The people have spoken. I guess my 8 years' experience and 3 commendations paled in comparison to guest starring on The Love Boat.
We could really stand to have some more public servants like in our current political situation.
Some more guys that just love being a cop so much that they're willing to not give up on being a cop, even when they face a crushing defeat. At some point he says that he got 8% of the vote.
In 1991, that seemed really ridiculous, but nowadays it seems like totally natural, like probably would happen.
Yeah. We've had some high profile actors in public office now.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess at the time they were just coming off of Ronald Reagan, but
One thing I was curious about was how plausible this scenario is. Can someone just become a sheriff? And I did a little research and I actually found a website called howtobecomesheriff.com. And they even have an article called How to Become a Sheriff in California. So according to this website, you have to be a US citizen, over 18, have a high school diploma and a GED. You might have to reside in the county, you might not, and most counties require that you have some police experience, but not all. So I'm going to say this is 100% plausible. A washed up actor could move to a rural part of California and run for sheriff and be elected. It's totally, totally plausible.
wasn't there a TV show where Steven Seagal had joined a police force as a volunteer or something like that in Louisiana?
Yeah, he became a sheriff's deputy in Louisiana and pretty famously sued for bulldozing through someone's house and killing their dog.
Sounds about right.
Okay, folks, show's over. Nothing to see here. Oh my God, a horrible crash. Hey, everybody, get a load of this flaming wreckage. Come on, crowd around.
It's good work, boys.
That dog ain't got shit on me, motherfucker.
I mean, the lore around Steven Seagal, this whole episode could be that.
Absolutely. That and, Shaq also pretty famously became a sheriff's deputy in Louisiana.
Really?
So you kind of got two sides of the same coin there.
Is there anything that man can't?
Absolutely not. He's the absolute fucking best.
Sky's the limit.
I liked all the movies Brent McCord was in, and what's really cool is most of them have posters. Here's a complete list of his movies mentioned in the show: Guadalcanal Picnic, Get Al Capone, The Long So Long, Fistful of Courage, Bring Me the Head of Zorro, and my favorite, Scuba Sleuth. I really want to see Scuba
Scuba
Sleuth.
Sleuth. That is a good.
Scuba Sleuth. I'm curious if there is like an equivalent, like a real life equivalent to Scuba Sleuth. I feel like there has to be.
It kind of sounds like a James Bond situation.
Thunderball takes place almost entirely underwater.
I guess if any of our listeners can let us know, what is Scuba Sleuth supposed to be a parody of?
The real scuba heads.
There were a couple of lines from his movies mentioned. One I particularly liked was, "I'm going to hell. Anyone need a lift?"
Yeah. And then when he shot a bazooka at someone or something.
They said that was during Get Al Capone.
Okay.
And another one, I hope you're all wearing clean underwear because we aren't getting out of here alive.
Yeah. So, the writing is actually pretty smart
Yep.
as far as the jokes. They're clever, but something about it. I had fewer laughs in this than I did watching Pistol Pete. I just didn't feel like the charm was there. It was competent, like the show strung together, just like you would expect of a laugh track sitcom of that era. Maybe it was the mood I was in. Maybe the graininess of the quality of the version I was watching. I don't know, but I don't know if it got one laugh out of me, but maybe a smile here or there.
Speaking of that, I wanted to start mentioning on the show, all of these pilots we've watched on the show so far, they're just up on YouTube.
Yeah.
There's usually only one copy, and I wanted to mention how long it's been sitting on YouTube without anybody caring, and how many views it has. So this one's been on YouTube for 3 years, and it's got less than 2,000 views.
Right.
That seems like quite a bit, because I seem to remember Knee-High PI like having like 50 views.
Knee-High PI had also been up on YouTube 10 years.
Oh, Lord.
And it's broken up into 7 pieces.
Yeah, back when you had an upload limit on YouTube.
Yeah, you had a 10-minute limit. So each piece is only 10 minutes and 1 second long. So you have to really want to watch Knee-High PI.
I feel like I saw a couple different versions of this, though, that were uploaded.
Really?
So the numbers might be slightly higher. I'm not sure.
There was a very short synopsis video, which is like substantially better quality, but I didn't see any other copies of it up.
Maybe that's what I saw.
I would have loved to find one with better quality.
So the remarkable thing about this show is that it actually aired and it received a 4.6 share on Nielsen, which was ranked 83 out of a total of 90 primetime television shows. But a 4.6 share represented 4.3 million TV homes out of a possible 93.1 million.
That would be fucking phenomenal now, I believe.
Right. Oh, you only had 4.3 million people watch it, and it was on CBS.
Yeah.
From 10:30 p.m. to 11 p.m.
On a Saturday.
on a Saturday.
Saturday is famously a dead spot. Nobody watches TV on a Saturday night. This show would do better more on like a Tuesday.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like. And I guess because it did so poorly, it was replaced by 48 hours in that slot. But I think it's important to keep in context. You think about the humor or the setup or how unfunny the show is, as what it was up against and what was doing very well in 1991. And I feel like whereas Pistol Pete was shot in the mid 90s, 94, 95, I think, this is in 91. So it was really still kind of a turnover between the 80s and the 90s. And the top rated shows were 60 Minutes, Roseanne, Murphy Brown, Cheers, Home Improvement, Designing Women, Full House, Murder, She Wrote, Major Dad, Coach, and Room for Two. Those are the top 10. So only one of those wasn't a sitcom. And you've got Cheers and Designing Women and some things that are almost kind of more 80s in their orientation. Sorry, I also, Murder, She Wrote was in there, which was not a comedy.
Also, a lot of those are more like family-oriented sitcoms.
Yeah,
And this is more of a workplace comedy.
that's true.
Yeah, it's a little more Murphy Brown than Major Dad.
Coach was a workplace drama.
That's true. Yeah, Murphy Brown, man. People thought that was going to be like a huge syndicated hit, like it was going to go into reruns forever. And it is like virtually disappeared.
Because it's so topical. Every episode was about something that Dan Quayle said or whatever, and it was just hyper topical.
Yeah, you're right. There were so many Dan Quayle jokes.
The actors didn't even get the jokes half the time.
So I saw that the director of this, I believe, also directed the reboot of Murphy Brown that came out a couple years ago.
Yeah, it came back in 2016, I think.
I was a big time Murphy Brown head as a kid, and I did not even bother watching that.
Yeah, I didn't watch it either,
No, I never watched it.
but I did watch it as a kid.
You son of a bitch! You man! You did this! You and every other man! I'm taking you with me!
I don't know much about Robert Goulet. I don't think he's known for Westerns. I don't think he was ever in a Western.
He wasn't really known for acting. As far as I knew, he was mostly known as a lounge
Right.
singer.
He was a Broadway star, famous for originating the role of Sir Lancelot in Camelot.
Right.
Camelot, Camelot, now say it out with love and joy.
And I think that part of the joke is that they cast him against type. Like, he's not really a Western guy. Like, he's complete opposite. He's more like a New York guy. And I think that was kind of part of the joke.
Yeah, I would think so for sure, now that you mention it. I didn't really have that when I was watching it because I just kept thinking about, I knew him only as Robert Goulet because he basically shows up on other shows being himself or just
Yeah.
someone very loosely connected to him. I guess he was on a couple episodes of The Simpsons and some other
Oh,
things
yeah.
like that as Robert Goulet.
One interesting point about that, he was on that episode of The Simpsons with the casino, and
Mhm.
Bart books him to his treehouse.
Are you sure this is the casino? I think I should call my manager.
Your manager says for you to shut up!
Vera said that? Jingle bells, Batman smells, Robin laid an egg. Batmobile lost its wheel and the Joker got away. Hey, thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry, kid.
There's a YouTube channel by a guy named Tom Scott, and he did a deep dive into that episode and how the schoolyard song has evolved. And he was able to show direct correlations between where that show aired in the world and where that song, like the evolution of that song was, because there's different, like most schoolyard chants, there's different versions of that song. And he was able to correlate it with who had seen that episode and where it had aired and when.
How the hell?
How did he get the versions of the schoolyard songs?
You know what? I don't remember. He's like one of those math guys on YouTube. So he has a lot of charts and stuff. So I would refer you to his channel because I don't remember, but it was very deep. The deputy, Mike Swanson, he directed a movie about the Mojave phone booth. That was like the only thing in his entire credits that I saw that was even slightly interesting. Have you guys ever heard of the Mojave phone booth?
Yeah, it sounds familiar. familiar.
It's this phone booth out in the middle of the Mojave Desert that got really big right when the internet started getting big because people were amazed that there was a phone booth out in the middle of nowhere. People would call it, like the phone number was posted, and people would camp out there and answer it.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, I think I remember that from a little show most people probably don't know about called This American Life.
But it seems like it was like a passion project of his to direct this movie about the Mojave phone booth.
Well, good for him.
Other than that, his resume looks pretty boring.
His role on this show was fairly boring, but he was basically a plot device and the same one that the deputy served in Pistol Pete. So yeah, the deputy, he basically rushes behind the scenes, does everything, makes sure that everything comes together in the end, works selflessly to serve the plot. But, you know, I don't know.
He did okay. I mean, yeah, like he serves his purpose. He's not super funny. He's pretty bland. But I think that's what the character called for. So the second half of the show, there's a bank robber in another county, and they find out that that bank robber has come into their county, and the lady deputy, Judith, captures him, and McCord is like standing in the hall, and the bank robber manages to sweet talk him, I guess, you know, tell him, oh, I can't believe you're the real guy.
Right, he flatters him.
And then McCord goes in his office to get an autographed picture for him, and the bank robber escapes. So like the whole second half of the show is them trying to recapture this bank robber and keep the press from finding out that the stupid new sheriff has let him go.
Right.
And the way that's resolved is that the deputy catches him and then gives the new sheriff, McCord, the credit for it instead of taking the credit himself.
Like an absolute rube.
That was his big chance to prove the voters that they made the wrong choice.
Yeah, pretty much.
You'll never get anywhere doing that.
This came right after he had given him this speech where he said,
Mike, what am I going to tell those people out there?
Well, it looks like you're going to have to tell them the truth.
Right. Okay. He crawled out through a heating duct.
he ends up lying to cover up.
Absolute loser move.
So I think we already mentioned that the dispatcher, Ruth Cobert, who's Helen Munson, she's the MVP.
Yeah, definitely.
She would have probably been my favorite character on this show.
She's the only one who doesn't like Robert Goulet's character, the only one who isn't fazed by him.
I was in the movies, you know.
Yes. I saw the beginning of one of your pictures.
Yeah. She had some really good lines. I like the one, the deputy comes in and says,
Helen, any news?
I'm retaining water again.
And then there's another moment at the end where like Robert Goulet is holding the newly captured robber, and one of the photographers says,
I'd like to get the two of you together.
You're not the only one.
But she's been around for a long time. Like her earliest roles, this actress, were on Car 54 and the Patty Duke Show in the early 60s.
I was going to say, some of her bit, like being on the phone and the pig squealing and shit, it reminded me of Car 54, Where Are You?
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think I've watched that show since I was a little kid.
Oh, me either. I don't remember it at all.
Okay.
But didn't they make a R-rated movie version in like the 90s?
Yeah, I'm sure they did.
That does sound familiar.
I just remember it was on Nick at Night when I was very, very young.
Yeah, it was like up with F Troop and the black and white Superman show, the George Reeves Superman.
The in-shape guy that looks out of shape.
Yeah. Yeah, in the 50s, to be considered in shape, you just had to be kind of fat.
He's stout. He's strong.
Yeah, he's stout and strong.
They shot so many episodes of that show, they just shot them back to back, and the actors wore the exact same wardrobe in every single show just to make it easier.
It probably wouldn't have mattered if they had changed, especially with black and white, because all the clothes back then were just brown.
They all just look gray.
Yeah.
Another show with a lot of episodes that may be worth drawing a comparison that popped in my mind was the Andy Griffith Show, which is about
a sheriff.
A lot of that show takes place in that police station. You've got a larger than life sheriff. You've got definitely a larger than life deputy. Again, though, a show that really benefits from its character actors, which they bounce back and forth in between. And this show just only, I don't know, had two.
The other deputy, the Diane Delano deputy, Judith Mahoney, I guess she could have been a good character.
Yeah.
I guess she's kind of like the by the books cop, I guess.
Yeah, she's like the by the books tough guy cop.
Yeah.
It's funny because she's a woman, I guess.
But she was also a fan of Brent McCord.
She has a brief appearance in one of my all-time favorite movies, Miracle Mile. I think she just plays a waitress.
Is she like a tough waitress? Like,
She's a stewardess in that movie, actually.
That's not the preferred term anymore.
Excuse me. A sky waitress.
When I looked up her IMDb, some of her roles were peppered across things from my childhood. She was in that movie, The River Wild, I think.
Oh, great movie.
Where Kevin Bacon plays a psychotic river guide who wants to kill Meryl Streep's family.
Yeah.
She also made an appearance on Major Dad.
Yeah, she was all over the place.
It all comes back to Major Dad.
Matlock, Doogie Howser, Cop Rock.
Oh my
I don't know what
God.
Cop Rock is. Married with Children. And more recently, apparently, she was on Pen 15. Which that's an entertaining show.
Oh, really?
She's on a show that's in pre-production called COVID 2021.
Not bad.
It's been a year since COVID-19 was revealed to be a hoax pandemic, so Bill Gates tries again, except this time it's personal.
Are you fucking kidding me?
He teams up with Big Mike Obama to vaccinate.
Microphone, like MIC.
M-I-K-E, Big Mike Obama.
Oh, sounds fucking hilarious. Wait, what is fucking Obama's like insane MAGA brother?
That's right. He did have a brother.
Yeah, he has an insane brother who's just batshit crazy on Twitter. He just like, yeah, my brother was born in Kenya. He's a Kenyan. Like, that's his whole bit. It's very strange.
So she also has made it on some user lists on IMDb. She was on the River Wild 1994 premiere. She was on someone else's list called the River Wild 1994 premiere. She was on best guest stars on NYPD Blue / Hill Street Blues / LA Law / Philly / Brooklyn South.
That sounds like an E show.
Yeah.
Best actress ever and list of females V3.
What on earth is that?
Just a list of babes.
List of females.
Version 3.
Coming in number 4 on our list, Mother Teresa. I don't know that we even have that much more to say about this.
It was not that bad.
It was the first one that we've watched that I truly felt robbed.
Robbed because it wasn't bad enough?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. There wasn't a whole lot to grab onto. It was only 22 minutes long. But also, you know, there wasn't anybody in this show that would have gone on to do another show.
John Putch was on an episode of Next Generation.
You're kidding.
No, he was on like the coming of age episode.
There's a lot of coming of age episodes.
It's called Coming of Age.
Oh, called Coming of Age. Oh, he's a journalist
Let
in
me see.
Star Trek Generations.
Let me find it real quick.
So I imagine he's one of the journalists that's on the ship with Captain Kirk. Oh my god, he's one of the fishmen. He's Marduk.
I am not Mordok. I am Mendon.
The alien that's wearing a harmonica on his chest.
Yeah, I can't remember what you call those aliens, but he's one of the fishmen. And so, yeah, no wonder I didn't recognize him because he has a complete face mask. Okay, so this episode, Wesley Crusher tests for Starfleet Academy, and they put him through the quote-unquote psych test.
I had a feeling he might be the one coming of age. If I had to bet, I thought it might be him.
It must be Wesley.
They sit him in a chair in a room and tell him to wait, and then he hears an explosion, and he runs out of the room, and there's a guy with like a beam on him, and there's like smoke coming out, and he like has to save one guy and let the other guy die. And then once he gets out, there's a guy standing there. He says,
"Congratulations, Mr. Crusher. You handled that particular incident very well. Not all tests are announced, but they appear to be."
It's like a complete traumatic experience. Starfleet Academy exam.
The other major actor in this, other than Robert Goulet, is Art LaFleur, who's like a really famous character actor. Most notably for, I believe he's played Babe Ruth twice, but he played Babe Ruth in The Sandlot.
Forever.
Oh.
Yeah, the other sheriff, the sheriff from Marin County.
That's right. Doesn't really do a whole lot. He just sort of stands there and watches Robert Goulet act like an idiot.
He's like a foil that doesn't do anything.
Oh, when they're wondering where the guy criminal was.
I missed that the first time around. I didn't catch it till the second time because the video quality is so bad.
I just assumed he was a journalist or something. I really kind of missed the part where even who he was. So maybe it wasn't that there weren't enough talented character actors in the show. It was that they were underutilized.
Well, that's what I don't understand, because like Night Court is basically all character, like the whole cast, plus they have this unending flow of characters coming into the Night Court for hearings and stuff, and it's non-stop character actor.
Maybe they thought the criminals being arrested were going to fulfill that role because they do kind of give them jokes. The beginning of the show, before Robert Goulet came in, the other police had captured 2 guys who were stealing a car.
Grand Theft Auto.
73 Cutlass.
Right, and their joke was,
You know, I don't think a 73 Cutlass qualifies as grand.
And then when McCord comes in, she says,
I just booked him on a $4.99B.
So, dropping trow in front of little old ladies. You perverts make me sick.
it's a good line.
you know, is
not a bad
pretty
line.
good.
We also didn't mention that the new Sheriff McCord is just firing his gun at everything.
Well, that's one less cockroach we'll have to worry about.
Oh, yeah. And that immediately, of course, reminded me of Pistol Pete.
Yeah, I was trying to come up with a list of things that the two had in common. That was like the only one I could think of was the gun jokes.
Reckless gunplay.
They said in the Variety review that he is against the ACLU?
Yeah.
He did have a throwaway line about that.
He did.
The ACLU won't be happy till every jail has hot tubs and topless masseuses.
Yeah. So one other actor that was on here that I guess is a more established character actor was one of the first prisoners, the one who delivers the line about the cutlass not being grand. His name is Lee Tergesen. He's been in a lot of things. He was one of the main characters on the TV show for Weird Science.
Oh yeah, he was Chet, who
Yep,
was
Chet.
played by Bill Paxton originally, right?
I believe so. And he also was one of the buddies in Wayne's World, like one of the friends, I guess Terry or something like that.
One of the guys that was headbanging to Bohemian Rhapsody.
I think so, yeah.
Oh, is he the one that gets sick in the car?
I think you're right. I think that is him.
I'm giving you a no honk guarantee.
He had like long hair.
Yeah.
On his Lee Tergesen official website, he has a little paragraph about acting sheriff, or a few paragraphs.
Really?
Yeah. He describes his performance there as Wayne's World-esque. He said, Lee's character scoffs in his Terry from Wayne's World tone. I don't think a 73 Cutlass qualifies as grand. So he was trying to channel some of that Wayne's World energy.
So like they take place in the same universe?
Oh, maybe.
I don't think they ever say his name.
But he had also been, in addition to those shows, a lot of other things, 124 credits, including, up to recently. I guess he was on the Watchmen mini TV series from last year.
Mr. Shadow.
Daredevil, Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan. He's a big streaming guy now.
Oh, that's where you have to go. You can't get 4 million people watching CBS on a Saturday night.
Go where the money is. So maybe he was underutilized as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a running theme for, these failed pilots is there's unused potential. So I feel like there was something here. Like it was at least as good as a lot of the shows that were on. It's almost like I like watching these pilots a lot of times just because it's like seeing an alternate reality that didn't happen. I mean, I could totally see this show going 100 episodes easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. It was competently done. It had a flow to it. You got to know the characters and what was going on pretty quickly. Just with a few more character actors bouncing things around, it could have carried something. I don't know.
Yeah.
And when I think about it being a good show that I would watch now,
no, absolutely not.
Is this a good show by today's standards? No. Or like our taste or what's current? No. But is it as good as like a random episode of Designing Women or Murphy Brown or Cheers or Coach or Major Dad?
Ned and Stacy.
Yeah, it's probably
absolutely.
as good as a random episode of Major Dad.
I don't know. I think there was a lot there, and it's a shame. More people don't know who Robert Goulet is. He could be more of a household name. In the same year that this aired, he actually co-starred in The Naked Gun 2.5 with Leslie Nielsen.
Wow.
Final requests, Lieutenant? Yes.
Can I have the gun?
Oh, no. Not gonna fall for that one.
He was the main bad guy, the Hexagon oil executive Quentin Hapsburg. So I don't know that he necessarily needed this.
I don't know. I think he was doing all right.
Showing up on random shows as Robert Goulet.
They had that parody of him doing rap music on Saturday Night Live where Will Ferrell really leans into saying the N-word that you can't find anymore.
Oh, girl, that dress is so scandalous. And you know, another couldn't handle it. You saw to the honeys getting money, playing just like dummies. Papa. You get the idea.
He's good as like a parody of himself, or like playing a parody version of
Yeah, he
himself.
seemed like a very good-natured person. Like, to just play a parody of a guy that I mean, was he even like lauded for like being like a lounge singer type?
You know, one thing that I know about Robert Goulet is that Elvis hated him. He was Elvis's least favorite singer.
Yeah, he was probably pretty all right then.
Elvis had a tendency to shoot TVs. He loved guns.
Wow.
And there's a story of him like eating dinner. Robert Goulet comes on and he just shoots the TV with a gun that was sitting on the table and then went back to eating.
So he had an interesting childhood, I guess, or background. He was born to French Canadian parents who were living in Massachusetts, working in a mill town, and actually sort of similar background in that way to Jack Kerouac. But when he was an early teenager, I think maybe his dad died. I'd have to double check that. But he had to move back to Canada, and he moved to Alberta. And then he grew up from 13 through early adulthood in Canada. And so something that was really notorious about him was that he botched the national anthem at a high profile boxing fight between Sonny Liston and Cassius Clay before he switched to Muhammad Ali.
That's amazing.
He got some of the words wrong. He said in the dawn's early night, and he had never performed the Star Spangled Banner before that time. And he had performed the Canadian national anthem. Some of the people in the stand started booing him and stuff.
Oh, man. If I can find that, I will put that in the show.
I would definitely like to hear that.
Have y'all heard the guy that fucked up the national anthem? It's like a famous guy who wasn't really a singer. He's like, oh no, I'll make it up now.
Carl Lewis sings the national anthem. One of the most atrocious performances ever at an NBA game in 1993.
And the Rockets, red flag. Uh-oh.
So, you know, maybe we need to save this for our national anthem episode. our red, white, and blue extravaganza, big blowout, 4th of July.
It's just a 6-hour long celebration
of America.
We'll actually get Carl Lewis on there too.
Was there anything else?
You know, I felt like for the first 10 to 13 minutes, I was kind of like, okay, I'm enjoying this. And then something happened around the 14-minute mark where I just don't remember it anymore. Like him trying to cover his own ass, the other sheriff.
You don't remember that half?
It just got like wildly boring.
Like the last half or so of this show is just like a blur. Like it's just so much more boring than the rest of it. Like I'm on board for the first half and then something just happens. I don't know if it's a tonal shift, but it just got like so much more boring.
It has a very clear 2-act structure. Like the first half we're getting used to him, and then the second half we're trying to figure out what to do about the bank robber.
Right.
It's almost like right at when the first commercial break happens. It's very clear delineation.
To me, it's disappointing at that stage too, because that's where the most interesting thing that's going on is going on off camera, because the other police are trying to find the guy who escaped. And all Robert Goulet is doing is trying to buy time and make up excuses for the reporter and the other sheriff who are there. And that's not the interesting thing. I think with Night Court, you know, we keep going back to that example. The most interesting thing is always happening in the courtroom. There's not a part where they're like, oh, you guys go off and do something interesting and we're just going to stay here and twiddle our thumbs. And then on the Andy Griffith show, which was also, you know, an example, they actually would leave the police station at that point and somewhere else if something's happening elsewhere in the town.
Yeah, they would go fishing. Him and his son go fishing in every episode.
I mean, they had a whole street. Mayberry is like a whole city.
Sure.
With like a barbershop and I don't know if they actually go into the mayor's office, but he's involved in the show. And then everybody has their own house.
Yeah. I guess there's a budget issue too. I'm sure their budget on this was more constrained so that they wanted to keep it on a set, but they made a mistake in thinking that this police station could hold that much interest. I can't think of a single show that takes place only in a police station.
Barney Miller.
Okay.
Like literally it is one office. They never leave the office. It's almost exactly the same as this set. Like it's a police station with a little holding cell in the back, and that's it. They never leave.
That sounds like a bad show.
Yeah.
Well, it was on for a very long time.
Was it?
I think so. I think it had 6 or 7 seasons.
That's a lot even back then.
But it's so cheap. You know, they have one set. It had 8 seasons.
Well, if you're going to do that, don't allude to major plot things happening off camera, unless you're really going to play that up or heighten it somehow.
Yeah, I would have loved to have seen the officer that we never see,
Fred.
who's only on the phone. Yeah, Fred. I would have loved to see him face down with this pig.
Yeah, he should have
Just
come in with the pig.
Absolutely.
Right. Or they could have called on the radio as they were chasing down the guy. I guess that would have been, the journalists would have overheard it or something. But yeah, we needed more of them capturing the criminal, because they just kind of show up with him at the end. They're like, oh yeah, he went back to the hotel that he was at.
He should have tripped over the pig, or maybe the pig should have caught him in some way. Tie those two plots together.
I mean, we really could have done with 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 pigs.
Just running through the police station?
Yeah, how much would you have loved to see one of the officers just get bit by a pig?
Yeah, I think this didn't need more character actors. It needed more pigs.
Yeah, nobody rides a giant pig.
I would have loved that. I want more pigs.
Bring it back to Pistol Pete. Like, one of the reasons why that one failed was because they had too many horses.
It was too expensive.
Yeah, the show Luck would still be on the air if they had used pigs instead of horses.
I mean, that might have been one of the reasons why they didn't have the pig money.
You got the pig insurance, you got the pig handler. It's not just the pig.
Yeah, right, yeah, it's a big price tag.
I mean, it worked for the movie Hannibal.
I think they really try to play up how boring this county is. You know, you've got this eccentric character coming to take over for a place that's really pretty mundane. So maybe that was another, one of the reasons why. It's not like some quirky little backwater. It's just a really boring county where nothing exciting happens. So maybe that was one of the reasons why they didn't think they needed to ever leave the station.
Yeah, there's no like local color. Like, a staple on sitcoms is just having like the wacky resident or whatever, which I guess you get at the beginning, but it's
The
just
pig
in
wrestling.
You get the two criminals.
It's just in phone call form. Him telling
Oh yeah.
what's his name that he can't stand naked in his cornfield to scare off crows or whatever.
Which just totally reminded me of Bob Newhart. Like, it was almost like a complete parody of one of his routines on the phone.
All that Newhart adrenaline pumping through the veins of this show, just infusing it with energy.
Getting all hyped up on Newhart.
That man had 3 successful sitcoms, so pulling in some Newhart energy probably wouldn't be bad.
I think it only works for him though.
Yeah, he needs to be in it.
Well, why not?
I believe Bob Newhart is still alive.
Oh, yeah.
He could probably fund on his own a remake of Acting Sheriff starring Bob Newhart.
I would totally buy him as a washed-up Western actor.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's very much still alive. He's like in his late 90s and ready to get to work on his next sitcom.
Yeah, that's the power of living slow like him, You just live forever.
Yeah, they say you have a finite number of heartbeats. Every animal does before they die, so you just keep it nice and slow.
Well, that's why you need a new heart.
He's always got one. He's always got one.
I've been waiting for that one for years.
I feel like the whole reason you brought us on here and had us watch this was to somehow work your way around to that.
Good night, everybody.
So, how many sacks of off-screen pig feed are you going to give this out of 5?
Out of 5, I'm going to say 3. It's not great. I feel like Pistol Pete was like almost like hidden gold. Like, it was such a special, unique, quirky, weird one-off thing that never happened. This isn't that. This doesn't have, I mean, it's competently written. It's competently acted. Could have gone on to make 100 episodes, but it wouldn't have broken any ground or changed anything,
There was more talent hidden in Pistol Pete, more potential.
More heart, better written, funnier.
More actual Australians.
How many bags of pig feed would you give it, Joe?
I'd say 2.5.
Really?
The more we talk about it, the more I think about it. The last half is just so blah. It's just so nothing.
I mean, I liked watching Robert Goulet
sing and dance.
Well, he was fencing to the air, and then he started singing Waiting on the Levee for the Robert E. Lee, which was, I mean, I don't know, worth the price of admission.
Sheriff, what exactly is going on here?
All right. I'll be straight with you. In this life, there's only one sure thing: death and taxes. And mistakes. And if I've learned anything in my 30-some-odd years on this planet, is that it takes courage to own up to those mistakes.
Sheriff, are you
The
trying?
kind of courage shown by our forefathers at Valley Forge, by our four brothers at Iwo Jima. The kind of courage it takes to look down the barrels of those Tommy guns and say, all right, Capone, this is Jolie, and you ain't seen nothing yet because I'm waiting on the levee, waiting for the Robert E. Lee.
I think I would just rather watch the episode of The Simpsons instead that he's on, and I would also give this 2.5 bags, and that was the answer in my head before I heard it from Joe.
Yeah, amen to that. I think to the current generation, they probably would just know him as the guy that was on that Simpsons one time. That's pretty much his legacy.
I wonder if well, actually, yeah, he did pass away. We didn't mention that.
Yeah, 2007.
So he won't be coming back for the Beetlejuice movie, which I think, yeah, they're going to come out with a new Beetlejuice movie.
Is it
Really?
Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian?
I hope so.
Yeah.
That's the script that's been kicking around Hollywood since the first one was released. The Dietz is by a hotel in Hawaii. Of course, they're not going to get, what's his name, Jim Jeffries?
Jim Jeffries?
What was his name?
Wait, the Australian comedian?
No, who was in Beetlejuice.
Oh, Jeffrey Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah, our guy from the last episode who is
Big time
confirmed pedophile.
And looks like it.
Big time pedophile.
He's not coming back. Catherine O'Hara might come back.
He might come back. He had a small resurgence for a little bit. I saw him in a couple of things, like after he was released from prison. Oh, God. He was in Ravenous. He was great in that.
We'll get Winona Ryder, and I don't know who else could play Beetlejuice other than Michael Keaton.
Yeah, nobody.
I think he's got to be coming back. I mean, there's no other way.
Yeah, a return to his comedic roots has been like a long time coming, and I feel like it almost happened with Birdman, which was such a fucking boring movie.
I liked Birdman.
Did you?
I did.
I hated it. I hated it.
It was so weird, and so there was just so many things going on that I thought were really funny and interesting. Like, I think a lot of people wrote it off because they believed that it was pretentious. And I think it was, but I also think it was trying to make a comment on that. The over pretentiousness of, actors and Broadway and all of that. I think it was making fun of that. What was weird to me was I never saw anybody make a joke about the fact that Michael Keaton played Birdman, and then he was in the Spider-Man movie playing the Vulture. Like, he was literally playing Birdman again.
I felt like there was a nod to that in the Spider-Man movie.
I was waiting on it. I never saw it.
Fuck. I'm not going to rewatch it, but I feel like it was there.
Well, I guess our listeners, maybe they can write in and tell us if they had a nod to that in the first Spider-Man movie.
I felt like his casting was a little bit of a nod to that, even though he was a villain.
I feel like he just kind of had a resurgence in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
He is great.
He deserves it. He's great. I hope they remake fucking Multiplicity.
Oh, no, that movie is terrible.
I don't know what you're talking about. I have probably seen that movie like 10 times, by the way.
Like, I don't know. I guess I just don't really like movies where people are like openly lying to their wives.
As a wife that's been lied to, I just don't appreciate that particular formula.
That's a little too offensive.
All of his clones sleep with his wife. He lies about it. I mean, they basically like raped her. Like, she thought that she was sleeping with her husband and she was sleeping with clones.
Well,
even though like the one that was mentally retarded.
Well, that's not the appropriate term.
Well,
she touched my Pepe, Steve.
What would you say? The one that was had issues.
Mentally disabled. Now I don't know if I'm using the right term.
Neurodivergent.
Cellular
mentally
drift.
Retarded.
No, that's where we started. But yeah. I mean,
it's okay to say that because it's a clone.
Okay.
It's not a real person.
Yeah, he doesn't have a soul. Do you remember? This is an early internet callback. Do you remember Card Blog?
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
No.
It was a special education teacher who had a blog. And I mean, it's just venting about your job, which everyone deserves to be able to do.
Mm-hmm.
Just like chronicling his adventures teaching the mentally disabled.
No, yeah, I imagine that would get old.
Well, I mean, when I was 14, 15, I thought it was the funniest fucking thing in the world. That and Maddox.
Oh god.
Oh god.
Yeah, I liked Maddox. I liked Larry the Cable Guy. I liked
I wouldn't admit to
Well, there's
that.
nothing wrong with
Larry the Cable Guy did radio bits where he would call in. They would air them on the radio station out of Tulsa. And then I think he had them on the internet. Yeah, he had a website where you could listen to the bits, I guess. And it was before he was on TV and famous.
In our last podcast, Paul Rubens was in it, and we were talking about Pee-wee. And I think we had said that Larry the Cable Guy is like the closest thing we have now to someone who has this persona that they just are, like when they are in a movie. Like in the 90s, we had a lot of those, and now we don't. Like that's kind of a thing that's just sort of dried up, and that kind of humor doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, I guess when we were kids, we had at the very least 2 huge ones, which were Pee-wee and Ernest.
Yeah. But they were also, mainstream movies like Ace Ventura, Austin Powers, Mr. Bean. It was just like very common, and like that has just completely gone away. Like we don't have that. The closest thing I would say would be Larry the Cable Guy, and then maybe Medea.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
Because Medea is like the equivalent to Ernest now. Because it's just the same fucking thing. Medea goes to jail. Medea scared stupid, or Medea fucking Halloween, whatever.
Medea scared stupid. I think that the ancient tome says we need to use Miat on the goblin demons from hell.
Medea saves Christmas.
I would watch a shot-for-shot remake of Ernest Scared Stupid with Medea instead of Ernest. I would.
Let's make it happen. Let's call Tyler Perry.
Let's do it. Apparently, he ain't doing much. I saw a tweet from him today or yesterday where he was like,
he's sleeping on his pile of money.
Whatever. Basically, to sum it up, he's just very lonely, even though he's wildly famous and incredibly wealthy.
He's like insanely rich.
Wasn't he talking about making a Medea airline or something? Or was that a dream that I had?
I think that is one of the highest grossing franchises.
Gotta be.
Like consistently, like it's one of those movies that makes the most every year. Like whenever a Medea comes out. Like it's not a thing that you hear about. It's not a thing anybody ever talks about.
Well, it's not a thing that we hear or talk about for a very specific reason, Stuart.
Okay, good point.
Yeah.
It's religious. That's why.